action.
We're live?
Live and
It's working? Cliff, you figured it out.
Maybe it is.
I guess. I don't really know, so we're going to have to check on Facebook. Hopefully,
Cliff,
Yeah,
you're alive because I'm on right now. Everyone, just so you know, I'm going to be answering questions tonight. I will hope to do half as good a job as Lori does every week, but
And the technical director is much just slow.
our technical director is going to be a little behind tonight, so please forgive him. But yes, we're live. We're up to 5,000 people watching.
Wow.
We're killing it.
Good job. That must be all Minnesota people.
It is. It's a whole state, actually. Yeah, they're right there.
We got our man Cory Childs here. Cory, how are we feeling tonight, my man?
I'm feeling good. I'm excited to be out here on Long Island. So
This is your debut.
This
is where
is
turning point in your life potentially.
oh well, of course. After this, I can't. The messages will be flowing in. I don't know how I'm going to handle all this new business. So I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, you're gonna be so backed up on your emails after your trip here out to.
I'm already
Long Island.
backed up on my emails. I don't know what that does at that point. You just probably turn it off or get rid of your email.
That would
But-
be nice.
Oh gosh,
We
think
should-
about it all the time.
Well, do you use Slack? Have you heard of Slack?
I have heard of Slack.
I heard that's like it's taking over email. Like we don't even need email anymore.
I've heard how popular it's getting, but like I'm stuck on the base camp with the project manager stuff. And, like internal communication, it's great, but yeah, Slack I hear is.
Yeah,
I have to apparently try it out.
I feel like you would appreciate it. How's your trip been so
Yeah.
far? You were in the city. You're staying in the city.
We are staying in the city. We're staying in Times Square, like the most tourist place you could possibly stay. So like as we're driving in, we're literally getting reference to go eat at the Hard Rock Cafe, and you know we're like, oh my gosh, it's like the Office episode. It's like, oh look, we're getting authentic food out here in Times Square. You know, getting the real New York City feel. So
Yeah, I suggested
Definitely.
you go down to 9/11 Memorial and really
Yeah.
experience New York and see it. We talked a little bit about Wells Crowther this morning when we met. It's something I think you should definitely do.
yeah,
Get to
no,
experience New York.
yeah. Tomorrow we'll be back, and I think that's. I mean, there's so much to do, but I didn't even think about that. So it's like super neat that we can actually go check that out. I've always seen it from afar, right? You know, being from Minnesota, but I'm excited to finally.
You leave
Go
tomorrow
see
night.
it.
When you head back?
So we're headed to Baltimore after this.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So we're driving down. We're renting a car, driving to Baltimore. More meet and greets about everything we're doing and what we're doing at Frolic Lacrosse and Arete Sport and what we're trying to build. So
Sweet.
sharing our vision
Who are you seeing down in Baltimore?
inside lacrosse.
Nice.
Yep.
Got to say hello to Terry Foy first.
Oh, he'll be there. I'll say hi.
He's a good man.
Yep. No,
Yeah,
I'm
inside
definitely
lacrosse is great.
excited. It'll be fun.
Have you ever been to their complex?
I did. I snuck into one of their parties like 3 years ago at the convention. Yeah.
It's a good party.
Yeah, no, it was super fun. We got invited last minute, and it was like really cool to kind of see people that obviously I've watched on YouTube and talk about lacrosse. And like in that room and environment, I'm like, oh, this is so sweet. And then now Laura and I always joke like, now look at what we're trying to do, and it's like this is super neat. Like how we're starting to get more involved in the lacrosse team, not just locally but nationally. So yeah, just going and being there to us is like the heart of lacrosse, and I think that's what weird saying about the heart of lacrosse, saying that Baltimore while I'm in Long Island.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably weird. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yeah,
all.
we'll potentially forgive you.
It's all right. I
Not
voted for
great.
Long Island to be the best hotbed over Baltimore on that voting machine. So there, I just made it up.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, we
Even though you're lying to my face.
You voted for it too?
Well, I vote for Westchester County, but that's just because that's where I'm from.
Specific.
Yeah.
You probably can get, yeah.
But
I feel like this is like a exciting time to go down and see inside lacrosse because like the start of college lacrosse season for everyone is just like it's like bonanza. Like everyone's going to their scoreboard, checking out the scores, talking about who the freshmen that are stepping up. I feel like they got to be just like swamped with just creating great content around college lacrosse right now.
Oh, it's endless. Like there's
Yeah.
so, like especially the growth of the game, the level of the playing field right now, like the upsets. Like
Yeah.
how do you kind of keep track of all that? Which is awesome, right? You have too much to talk about.
Yeah.
So you'll never be bored sitting there like, what are we going to bring up today? It's
Right.
like, look at the upsets that already happened in lacrosse. I can't even imagine as the year goes on.
Sure.
What we're going to be seeing throughout Division I lacrosse.
What about D3? You think we'll see some crazy upsets in Division III this year?
I hope so. I mean, I'm a D3 Midwest guy, right? So
Yeah.
like, I would love to see more of those D3 Midwest guys take the next step from just 10 years ago when I played. But D3, I feel like it's coming, and every year I say that, and then you see that the same guys at the top. But it's cool to see what York's doing. It's Salisbury has always been so up there all the time, but having like Barry, I think it was a 9-7 game Barry versus Salisbury.
Yeah.
Like that's super cool.
Yeah.
I played Barry when there was their very first season. That was only 10 years ago.
Wow.
And now they just played Salisbury, and it was a 9-7 score.
Well,
I mean, that's
Aurora
nuts.
built a great program with
Yeah.
Jimmy Berkman's son,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you just noticed, but 3D Lacrosse just announced
Yes,
that
I
Kyler
know.
Berkman's going to be working for 3D,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool to get him in the game. I mean, Jimmy, I played against Jimmy in college. We're the same age, And I know I've known of him, and now I obviously know him since he's been coaching. And arguably, in my opinion, the best college coach in the game.
Yeah, I mean, almost every. I mean, I'm obsessed with his like man up. So, I go to his presentation.
Oh, the best.
I watch. I probably have like 1,000 of those views where I just like all my terminology is just Jim Berkman's man up, and it's like, oh my gosh. But just building off of that too, and adding my own little element to it's so cool to like. I'm gonna do what Salisbury does.
I'll tell you a great Jim Berkman story. So the first time I meet him, I'm at the North-South game. Corey Wink's playing the North-South game, so I went over and introduced myself because I played against him in college. He became this icon at Salisbury. And we start talking. I go, hey, Jim, I'm so-and-so, Mike Winkoff. I played at Ithaca. He played at St. Lawrence. So he goes, who's that guy who scored 10 goals against us? And I'm like, that was Richie Marino. And he's like, you know that man-up play you ran? And I go, I don't remember it. He goes, we still run that play at Salisbury. And I'm like, that's unbelievable. I'm out of college for almost 40 years. And this guy...
And he's still bringing it up.
And this guy runs the man-up play. I don't even know what it is. But that's him. He's that guy. He's like the Jamie Monroe of college lacrosse, where his whole life he's the professor of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I listen to one of his podcasts too. He's an avid reader. I love reading, so it's like, trying to like mimic what he's doing as a young coach. It's like, okay, what's he doing? He gets up early, he reads. It's like, okay, I'm going to do that now. So it's like trying to mimic, what all these great coaches do, and try and like reciprocate what they're doing. So
I listened to that too. I thought it was interesting how much he reads about leadership. It's like
I know it's like because he's such a leader, right?
Right.
Yeah, he's that's usually what we find out, right?
Yep. I thought it would just be like...
It's like the Wooden Bucks. The Wooden Bucks are the best.
Yeah.
John Wooden, yeah. I read the little blue one that Jamie Monroe recommended. I bought it the next day. No, I bought it after that presentation. I brought the John Wooden book and read it.
Have you ever read Joe Ehrman's books?
No.
Season of Life?
Nope.
Did you remember a player, Barney Ehrman? He played LSM at Georgetown about 7, 8, 9 years ago.
No.
It's a great LSM. His dad, Joe, was an NFL defensive tackle all-pro in the 60s and 70s. He coached Gilman football, and his coaching philosophy, it's basically, he's my mentor. And he talks about the greatest part of his book is he's just finished his two-a-days in football, and a mom comes up to him and goes, hey, coach, how are you guys going to be this year? Asking how the team was going to be. And he goes, I'll tell you in about 20 years when I see what kind of men these boys become, what kind of dads, what kind of community members, what kind of husbands.
Yeah.
Then I'll be able to tell you how successful our season was. And that's his premise of how he coaches. And he's been very successful as a coach.
Yep.
He's about being a transformational coach versus like transactional coach.
Yeah, I actually think I own one of his books. I have a book list, and I think he's one of them.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Inside
think-
Out coaching?
Inside Out.
Yeah,
That's the second
It's a
book.
good one.
Okay, so that's the one I own, and because I've heard the story, you just told me I
Read
know
Season
it,
of
so-
Life. You
Season
won't
of
be able to
Life,
put
yeah.
it down. It's
You
my
wake up.
favorite.
You wake up as early as Berkman and start reading.
No, no, I'm not there yet.
He's got 4-year-old
baby.
twins.
I got 4-year-old twins. We got an 8-year-old.
He's got a diaper. You got
I'm
poop
getting
over your
there.
hands.
Yeah, it's. I wake up to them breathing on my face. Dad, are you awake? And it's like, I guess I am now. It's like, let's get it. So, no, I'm enjoying my young children right now, but depends on the day though.
So you have an 8-year-old daughter, and then you have twins.
Yeah.
That are how old?
4.
Gotcha.
Almost
girls.
5. All girls.
Love it.
High five the girls.
7:30.
Let's go. Run the
Let's
show,
roll
baby.
it. Let's roll the intro.
Brody,
Cliff, my man.
you ready? And we're on.
We're live.
We're officially live. I guess we're back.
Official.
Yeah, this is
Now you could really introduce
the
Corey
most
without
official,
the E.
official. Yeah, this is
Alright.
Cory, everyone. Childs without the E.
Without the E.
He's the man behind Frog Lacrosse, and if you don't know about them, you will start hearing about them soon. We can assure you that. So, here's something I like to talk about because we were catching up a little bit earlier in the office. You were nice enough to stop by the HQ with your wife, who you work with at Frog, and you asked him where the name come from, and I find that actually kind of an interesting story. can you just rehash real quick
You want me to
about the
bring
name
up?
Frog? Yeah,
I
talk
knew
about
you were
it.
going to do this. I knew it. I was like, why did I tell him that story?
Well, I asked
No,
you.
no,
What did I
because I
ask you?
think-
Is it an acronym?
It's an acronym, and everyone
Yeah.
asks if it's an acronym.
But
I should start lying and say it is and make one up now. But
What? It's not? Wait, I thought it was.
no, it's not an acronym. When I first started Frog, it was supposed to be like some small idea with one team maybe. And so when it came to picking names, like I was kind of making fun of the situations, like, well, all the best teams are named Tenacious Turtles, right? The Snappers, the Crabs, the Clams. So I was just like, I'll just be whatever domain name that is available that's an amphibian or a reptile. And so Frog Lacrosse, he was like, oh, that no one's Frog Lacrosse, so I'll just do that. And two, I know that, okay, if I have a sixth grade team, which is my first team, was sixth going on seventh grade, it's like, okay, those kids are going to love Frog uniforms. Are you kidding me? Like what you can do with the name Frog and have like the crazy pattern, because we all know how much those kids at the younger ages love the crazy shorts. So I was like, at least it will make for a cool name and people will be attracted to it. And another point that I didn't tell you guys either is I always say no one will ever not know who runs Frog Lacrosse. There's always teams out there. It's Team this, it's TC Select, it's Team Minnesota, it's Minnesota Select, then there's Frog Lacrosse. And it's like, oh, Cory, that's Cory. Like, so from a marketing standpoint, it's like the name just kind of pops out to you.
Well, what I thought was interesting about that, and it's kind of how when you started for Love of the Game originally, it was one team, and the outgrowth of it was for a variety of reasons. But for you, Cory, like it grew kind of unexpectedly. But when you kind of look at where the game's going, I guess it is kind of expected. So why has your program grown now, and why was it once one team in 2014, 2013, and now, what it is today?
Yeah, I think when you first start a club team, right, you want to do it right. You want to make sure you get the right people involved. So when you go out and you're meeting with these parents, talking about your vision, people that share the same vision of you like to tell other people about your vision. So it kind of started out that we had some amazing. The parent group at Westward Lacrosse is. I got super lucky getting all of these very involved parents that were very passionate about what we were trying to do, create the culture, that family kind of travel team culture where it's hey, we know you have to travel across country with your kids, so all of you should be friends. We should all be friends. We should be looking out for the siblings and the parents. So when going down, I would say knocking on doors or grabbing coffee and sharing that vision and getting on the field with these players, that's what kind of led to the word spreading to the South Metro of Minneapolis about, hey, there's something new in town, reach out to Cory. And at first I said no to a couple of growth opportunities. I was like, hey, we're gonna do one team, that's it. And then 3 months later, a family of multiple boys goes, well, my older son now wants to.
Yeah, you feel bad because you want them to have the same experiences as their brother or sister.
Yes.
That's what makes them grow. It's the truth.
Yeah,
That's
so
what
that's how it
makes
started.
you go into both genders.
Yeah.
Forget that your wife is a women's lacrosse coach.
Yeah.
But you obviously need customers, and then at the end of the day, it's like I have a little sister and she's playing, so obviously that grows your business.
Oh yeah, exactly. You look across the teams, like we have brothers and sisters across the whole program, which is awesome. But yeah, so the first 2 years was a lot of, okay, what am I going to do? What is my vision? My vision has changed every year, by the way. Frog has never been run the same way 1 year in a row. It's always adjusted and adapted to what's going on. And by year two, I would say in between year 2 and year 3, that's where I finally decided, I'm going to make this my thing. I'm going to make this my full-time job. I'm going to really jump in because I feel like I must be doing something right because I already started, 2 clubs before that. I must be onto something that's getting more popularity, especially with the sport growing, that there is an opportunity for me to do this as a career.
What is the radius, distance-wise, of your clients in the Minneapolis area? Like, would you say it's a 30-mile radius?
No, this is super cool. We're based in the South Metro, so we're in Burnsville, Minnesota, but we have people from St. Cloud, which is an hour above the cities, to come down to go to practice in the South Metro, and then we have people coming from Rochester, which is hours south of the Twin Cities. So we have a massive spread of kids that travel.
It's a big radius.
Yeah, it's super cool, and it's super wow, you want to play for us that bad that you're willing to drive an hour one way to go to practice. And to me, that's amazing. We have a family that literally is at my facility 4 or 5 days a week, and they live probably 35 to 40 minutes away, one-way drive, and they come down constantly.
I find that fascinating. This weekend, we ran our last box session, and there was this one dad who would show up, and he'd be the first one there at 7:15 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and the kid had a W on his helmet, and on Long Island, a W is usually Wantaw or Ward Melville, but the colors were different. So I'm like, where is Mikey from? Where are you guys from? And they're like, we're from Washingtonville. And I'm like, where's Washingtonville? And they're like, it's in Orange County. I go, an hour and a half away? I go, what time do you get these kids up? He had Jenna, who was playing in it. She's a 4th grader. And Mikey, who's a 2nd grader.
Yeah.
He's driving an hour and 30 minutes with no traffic on a Saturday morning. So that means he's leaving his house at 5:30. And I said, well, why? And he goes, you know, if your kid's gonna be the best, they gotta practice with the best. And I said, oh, okay, I get it.
That's super awesome.
I was like, and the
Yeah.
kids, great dad, great kids, like, you know, well raised. And I'm like, Jenna, you sleep on the way here? She goes, yeah. You must get him in their pajamas and put him in there.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, because I used to do something called the Breakfast Club for hockey. So it was at 6 a.m. on Wednesdays. So that reminds me, like, yeah, I'd be sleeping in the car on the way to hockey, and my dad's just like, all right, get in the car. It's like, oh my gosh. But once you get there and you go through the grind, you know, it's something you got to do, right? When you're training to be the best at what you
I
want
think
to
it's
do.
cool. I think it's cool that parents are so into it. And as long as the kids are into it, like these two
Yes.
4th and 2nd graders were both great kids and both into it and smiling. It's not like they weren't miserable.
Yeah.
If they're miserable, then you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
But if they're enjoying it and they're happy and dad's okay with it, why not?
Yeah, you want to feel their passions, right? If they're passionate about something, you as a parent want to go all in on. And that's something I noticed as a young parent. It's like, whatever your passion is, I'm going to jump on that. And I'm going to make sure that you're
I'm with you,
doing it.
dude. I think that's
So.
the best advice you could give to any young parent. Follow that child's passion. I remember when Cory was little, I came home from work one day and he's sitting at the table. He's in like 1st grade. And I see him and I look down and I call my wife over and I'm looking over his shoulder and he's drawing, 1st grade, the playground in the back of our house. And it's like almost perfect. And I'm like, you know, my grandfather was an artist, so obviously that must have dropped down to him. And I'm like,
Yeah.
So he would take art classes, and that's the stuff you want to do. And to me, parents don't evaluate their children's passion enough. They take their own passion and they push it on their children when they should really evaluate their children's passions, which is
Yeah.
something that's great advice. Young parents out there, I hope you're listening.
What are some of your kids' passions?
Oof. Playing with their friends, which is awesome. Like, so if we're talking about my twins like we have a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
And we have, okay, so 4 houses, 11 girls.
Wow.
I'm not kidding.
That's a team, baby. You need one
That's
more.
what I'm saying. No, exactly. We have team practice. Like, we have like the neighborhood.
Like 2029.
Like, we throw like sticks in the front yard and it's just like, here's my team. I'm set. Like, you know, the age range, like the twins are the youngest. It goes all the way up to about probably, well, I mean, I'm not even counting the older girls. I'm talking just from like 4 to 13, but there's older girls in the cul-de-sac too that are just out of high school. But
Those are the babysitters?
oh, yep. We have amazing babysitters. Like, we couldn't do what we do if we didn't have a neighborhood full of, you know, all these girls that just want to come over and
So have
babysit.
you ever seen our fusion stuff we do?
Oh, that's
Yeah,
how we
talk-
connected.
Yeah, so
Okay,
that's how we met.
Tell them
Yeah.
how that started.
the fusion
The
stuff?
idea.
Well, yeah, we wanted to kind of simulate backyard play. And
Mm-hmm.
was it the US lacrosse video you had seen? Or
Yeah,
something?
so that's when I reached out.
Yeah, so we connected through fusion, through playing, which is cool. It shows that, you know, we kind of have similar philosophies when it comes to developing players, and I think that's where we were both interested because we talked about, hey, like there's so much structured, like standing around, organized, like basically dry play that, you know, is turning kids off. So how can we kind of spice this up? And you know, it was cool to talk to someone, in Cory's shoes, who is developing a program in a non-traditional community that was just interested in learning about. It was just really trying to find a better way to develop your players, and you know, it was something that we both related on, and that's funny. That's how we connected with the fusion stuff.
Yeah, because that was the beginning stages of Frog. That was
Yeah.
like a year into Frog, and I watched that video, and I think I emailed you just like, I want more, like, what are you doing? And then, you know, just talking to someone that's around my age and passionate about, you know, growing the game of lacrosse. So I know that's how you and I kind of stayed connected throughout the years.
Well,
and all that.
the big thing, we were having a conversation one day driving somewhere, and I said, we need to bring the neighborhood playing into what we do, because there's not enough of playing, there's too much coaching. And the kids need to just play. It's funny, we had an episode of Fusion where it showed you where our world has changed a lot, and the kids just beg for it. And they don't even realize they're doing drills.
Yeah, that's a cool thing about it.
'Cause it's competitive.
Fun. It's fun, but
Yeah,
you're
it's
learning
fun.
something. That's
Exactly.
Like we did a whole clinic series literally around fusion, and like our science like doubled the next session over just because they're playing games. They're actually really working on keeping their head ball dodging. It's like
Right.
it's funny. It's like there's little things in there like they don't even realize. especially the fast break one. It's just like it's such chaos, and they're just having fun, but they don't understand. They just learn how to do a fast break.
Yeah.
So it's like it's super neat. You trick them into learning. So
I was talking to a family. We have there's a community on Long Island called Kings Park, and we have a bunch of girls in our program from Kings Park, and they do block parties. You guys have block parties by you, where they have like a party in the summer, and it's the whole block, and they shut the block down, no traffic, and the people just make food and they play, and the parents are doing things, and they have this type of community similar to what you have in your cul-de-sac. And I think because of organized sports, there's too much or too little of that going on for our kids. They need to be able to just play and fight it out amongst them who the teams are. And are the teams fair? Or they're not fair. And then you fight for 30 minutes and then you play.
yeah, that's how we grew up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of mom and dad hanging over them and having opinions, keep them out of it. And then you're also teaching them how to communicate
Yeah.
and how to get their point across, whatever their point
So
is.
do you know who
Yeah.
Douglas Moran is? Is
Oh,
that one
yes.
of your families?
Very much so.
So he just wanted to give you a shout out, say hi, and thank you for all that you do in and outside lacrosse, and was excited to see where the program's going. So I guess that's from Jack Moran. Is his dad Douglas?
His dad's Doug.
So Jack wanted to say that. I guess my question for you is, you do a lot for kids in the game. Talk a little bit about that, and then talk about what you do for your players in the program, both boys and girls, outside the game. Maybe recruiting advice or stuff like that.
Yeah, I think one of the coolest things just in general about Frog is we're always, it kind of stems from a little bit of paranoia, right? I want to constantly be moving in the right direction as a program. So as far as in the game of lacrosse, one thing, if you see a Frog coach, like we hire coaches that are very similar to me, where it's very personal. It's like our coaches know our kids.
Right.
Like, hey, we can name every kid in my whole program. Like that's how it should be. You should understand who the families are, and who plays for you. So as far as our culture, there's different ways. You can kind of have that militant style. You can kind of have that almost over, all fun all the time. We're kind of in the middle, where it's like, hey, we want you guys embrace fun, but it's time to get to work, and then here's our rules during practice. And all the kids at Frog Lacrosse, if they're listening, like they know my rules. It's like, okay, when we're at practice, there's no negativity to other players. Like that's my rule. You're not allowed to chirp another kid or say anything negative to another player. Like us coaches will coach. You're out there to support. If he messes up, go talk to him. That's how we do things at Frog Lacrosse. And when you come into that culture like that, it changes everything. Because kids know, like, hey, I know I can't lose my cool at a Frog practice because Cory's going to lose his cool with me. And he's going to pull me aside, like, we don't talk that way to our teammates. So on the field, that's something that we've embraced, and is like our main focus is everybody should feel included and part of the team and part of the program. And then one thing I do, I think, that really separates us too is like, in the fall I offer a trip to my kids, or I drive them on a college tour and we go visit, all the schools. And the cool thing is we're in the car for a long time. So we're talking the whole time, what'd you think of this school? What'd you think? What do you guys like? And then I'll give my opinion after what you guys say. What coaching styles are you guys interested in? You like it more like me, or are you looking for more upbeat, that's, I wouldn't say upbeat, but more militant, in your face kind of style. But so as I do that trip with them, we go to these schools, we walk around with the coaches, then I get to learn about the schools. So when kids are going through the process, I'll get, oh, by the way, did you know that, this school's adding, they're building up a whole new business center. It's like, you should really check them out. And just learning about the coaches too, and getting to know the coaches. So I'm also learning and making connections with those coaches along with those kids going through the process and seeing what's out there.
Do your kids play more than one sport?
Almost. I mean, most of them are multi-sport athletes. Tons of hockey, obviously, right? Minnesota, and a lot of basketball players and football players. Like, yeah, we definitely are flexible, and we push our kids when they play multi-sports. They can't make a practice, but they can make it up later. Like, we love that, and we love having these kids go and play hockey and football and soccer, whatever, because it all comes back to helping us compete in the summer.
Do your kids tend to play for other club programs in those sports that are like-minded to you, or are they like, hockey's my sport, and then lacrosse is always going to be that second because we're in Minnesota and that's just how we do things here?
Yeah, so, I mean, we have a lot of hockey and lacrosse players that play AAA hockey too. And so, I mean, I would say that we're at a point where we actually have kids that are lacrosse first. So,
Like that kid you were talking about, that 8th grader.
yeah, he's good. So he's a very good hockey player, but I know just talking to his parents, it's like, lacrosse might be his future, which is cool when you can be so good at hockey, but you're still thinking long-term as lacrosse. You don't get that in Minnesota.
So take me into his head for a second, because if I'm a kid in Minnesota He's gotten some press already. He's like being pegged as one of the better 8th graders in the area in hockey. You can go to the NHL. You can make a living off of this. Like, if you're really good, for the most part, like, you can do really, really well for yourself. You can go play college hockey. Like, what's cooler than that? Why would a kid say, wait, no, I want to do lacrosse. Like, I'd rather do this. Like,
Yeah.
where's that coming from?
I seriously think when you're an 8th grader, okay, was that 14 years old? Like,
Yeah.
you're just thinking about what you love.
Yeah.
And a lot of these kids, they do love, like, I loved hockey up until, well, I still love hockey, but up until 10th grade, I was hockey, then lacrosse. But then things start to change. You start thinking about college, you start thinking about your opportunities. So I think when you're in 8th grade, it's like, what do I enjoy doing? And some of the kids, it's whatever season it is, right? If it's
Yeah.
winter, I love hockey more than lacrosse. Spring, okay, actually, I like lacrosse more than hockey. So they're going to go and they're going to change their mind throughout that series. But in Minnesota, it's super cool just to have those conversations with kids. Like, my main thing, my main sport or my future I'm thinking is lacrosse. So as a lacrosse guy, selfishly, like, that's super cool to hear, especially in a place like Minnesota.
They have a lot of role models. Like, are their role models the same role models that are the Long Island guys are looking at? Are they looking at the Thomas Schreibers and the Paul Rabels, or are they looking at a local guy?
I would say local. Minnesota is very homey. I always joke with my kids, like, I can name drop all the guys in PL, and they'll look at me. Paul Rabel, I think, has done a great job. Kyle Harrison come out and does stuff with us. So there's a couple of guys that we bring out that they know just because they've been to Minnesota. I think that's a big thing, is the sport's growing, but at the same time, it's the local guys coming back that these guys look up to and know about. I mean, I talk about Steele Stanwick, Danny Gladdy, and I bring up those names around these kids, and they stare at me like,
Yeah.
who's that? I was like, I'm like, oh, I pull up YouTube. It's like, go watch those guys right now if you're a tall attackman.
Well, like the guys that you can think of right now that are playing collegiately. We talked about, was it Robert Graff? What's his first name? What's Coach
Ryan
Graff's?
Gra-
Ryan Graff?
That's a son.
Ryan's the kid?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Ryan's playing at Harvard. Is there other Minnesota kids that are, when they come back in the summer, they're the shit of lacrosse in Minnesota?
Well, Ben Williams from Syracuse. So
Okay.
Ben Williams. So I coach at St. Thomas Academy, and Ben went off there. So
Was Ben the one who went to Holy Cross first?
Yes, he went to Holy Cross.
He was a
first.
face-off kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a stud. He's a Minnesota kid, huh?
Yeah, he's not bad. Yeah,
he's good.
He's amazing. And so, yeah, I coached him in high school, and he was just dominant. Just absolutely amazing player, great kid. And one thing you notice too with some of these Minnesota, Ryan McNamara is another one who played at Marquette. I think he was an All-American there too. So he's a big name in the community too.
Joe Amplo must be coming to check out your kids.
Joe Amplo's in Minnesota.
Stevie Brundage.
Yep.
They're good guys. They're really good guys. I got to tell you something. I want my kids to play for we've sent 2 kids to Marquette that didn't end up being stars, but they loved the school.
Yeah.
And everybody loves Joe and Stevie and now Richards. I mean, they got one of the better staffs in the country.
Yeah.
Just 3 great men to mentor men, which I think is important.
And they're 5.5 hours away from Minnesota.
Yeah.
I mean, as a Midwest
Convenience.
person, I mean, we talked about earlier at the headquarters is the Minnesota kids want to stay in the Midwest for the most part. It's very rare to see them go out to Long Island and play lacrosse. So as the sport grows in the Midwest, Marquette's going to take advantage of that. Notre Dame's going to take
How
advantage
about
of
Cleveland State? Any kids going there? Because they look good. I saw them play Ohio State. They look good.
I talked to Dylan a couple times about just a couple kids in our Frog program. I think they had one Minnesota kid go there a couple years ago. But I know Dylan has his eyes
He's got
on
his eyes
Minnesota
on
kid.
him.
Yeah, for sure.
You said the 2020 class is very good in Minnesota.
It is.
I think it's good throughout the
deep.
country.
Oh man,
Because
it's
I know
crazy.
Long Island, it's loaded.
Yep.
And I know everywhere we play great teams. I mean, 3D Colorado, 3D New England,
Yeah, Denver Elite 2020 was really good.
Denver
We'll play
Elite
that.
2020 is really good.
Yeah.
So I mean,
And
there's
2020 class is stacked. Yeah, Minnesota. It's
I had a
it's
parent
60
tell me
to
why.
80 deep.
Really weird. Did I ever tell you that, Corey? The parent that told me about that?
I don't
The
think
what?
so.
He said the 2019 class wasn't as good as the 2020 class, and his thoughts were the 2019 class was born right after 9/11, and a lot of those kids were coddled because everybody was so scared about what transpired, and then they kind of this was a cop who said this.
Yeah.
I didn't understand it,
Yeah.
but that was his thought process because the college coaches say the 2020 class is phenomenal throughout the country,
Yeah.
but the 19 class isn't in the same level.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
It is. It's funny kind of you see trends. Like in Minnesota, I see another trend that the 2023 class in Minnesota, it's really good. Just in Frog in general, our 22 class has the biggest following, and it's really good.
The 22?
But 22. But I don't know if that's a statewide thing. But I just know the 23 level, everywhere I turn, there's a really good 2023 player in Minnesota. So it's like there's probably a repeat of that 2020 group coming up.
So how do you learn about like what's happening throughout Minnesota lacrosse, like the scene at the high school level, within the high schools,
Yeah.
what's happening at the high schools? Like talk about how many teams there are now, like, talk about your experience coaching and then who else is coaching within these programs and just what's going on there.
Yeah, so the cool thing about Minnesota, the luxury of Minnesota, is we're all confined. So like the Twin Cities, like we're all within, 20-minute radius of the actual cities.
Like circle around it.
Yeah, you just circle around the Twin Cities, and then you have the north, the west, the east, the south, and so it's really easy to know what's going on when everyone's so close around you. Everyone knows each other. It's easy to go catch a game. So as far as how I stay in the loop, I don't ever stop coaching. So like we're always doing something. We're always talking to someone. We have kids that are from all these cities, so I hear everything that they're saying and who's standing out in their neck of the woods. So it's very easy to be in the know in Minnesota lacrosse, especially as long as we've been doing it. What am I? I'm 30, so most of the coaches there are younger. So we grew up playing together or playing against each other. So having that network, it's pretty easy to stay in contact.
Is there a
with that.
website that you can go to and follow high school lacrosse in Minnesota?
Yeah, there's MN Lax Hub. So they
MN Lax Hub?
Yep, MN Lax Hub. So they have like the rankings on there, and they do stories on
We gotta remember that,
lacrosse.
Cory. MN Lax Hub.
MNLaxHub.com.
So all the high
Check
school
that out.
scores are on there, and
Yep. So the
MSH.
MSHSL.org is where us as high school coaches would go in and fill out all the stats. So that's like where you go to get the official stat sheet.
Oh.
But MN Lax Hub actually does more coverage of the sport.
got it.
Yeah.
So statistically, it's that because the high school. So after a game, a high school coach or statistician will put the information into the website for that.
Yeah, and
Interesting.
it's almost always the high school head coach. His game just finished. Now he's uploading film, and now he's entering stats into the MSHSL.
Wow.
So I always kind of talked like, wow, the dedication it takes to be head coach. I mean, anywhere probably, but like in Minnesota, they go in, they put all the stats in, and then some coaches do it on MN Lax Hub and MSHSL.
Oh, they both have stats.
Yeah, they both have stats, and you can choose to do MN Lax Hub, but for the coach association, you have to do MSHSL.
Got it.
So that's where you go for official stats. But there's a lot of people, a lot of staffs that do both websites.
It's great. Well, we can follow it now, and talk about it, which I love.
It's good for the coverage. I'm sure it's great for college coaches too, right? To check out. And
Yeah,
some of
see
your players.
what high school programs are trending up. Who are the top leading goal scorers, top assists, because that's on MN Lax Hub. So yeah, you can definitely go on that website, click, and kind of see the top performers in the state.
Yeah, well, we're developing a website to do that for Long Island because there hasn't been a website, and we're breaking it this year. So we're going to roll it out slowly so that it's done the right way.
That's
and
so
that way,
crazy.
Nick, can you believe that Long Island doesn't have that?
Yeah, no, that's just when you first brought that up, I was just like,
The
wow,
best
that's-
website I've ever seen is up in Rochester. It's called section5.net, right, Cor? So it's unbelievable. Like I used to talk to college coaches, and they'd be like, "Yeah, after our season would end, we'd go on this website, we'd check everybody's stats, and then we'd go to the games to watch who's this kid who has 80 goals."
Well, in Minnesota,
Yeah.
I think it's relative because you have some new schools. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, the stats aren't as powerful as, like, a Rochester.
Yeah, because you mean it's the quality.
Yeah.
because you have some, like, northern teams.
Yep. No, you keep talking.
I'm
We'll just
saying
repeat what
it's
you're
just
saying.
like, if you have teams that are, like, newer and not in the powerful, like, Twin City area.
Yep.
Sally has 12 goals.
Right.
It's not going to mean the same if she's playing, like, a Eden Prairie, Blake, Lakeville North. So
Sure.
it's still a relative concept in Minnesota.
It's the same. The conversation that's coming from Corey's wife is that the competition isn't as high, so sometimes 12 goals. We talk about that all the time. It's
Sure.
like when you show video out there, make sure if you're beating the best teams, you put a clip down there like this is against Ward Melville. This is against.
Yeah, it's the same in Minnesota. When you look at there's always a big argument in Minnesota. Of course, like, well, this kid put up 120 points. It's like, well, he's playing in this section versus this kid put up 55 points against
Right.
the best four defensive teams. I would even say when you're arguing for maybe that player getting that award, you're looking at actual matchups, not the overall schedule. I mean, yes. But like, well, he scored 4 goals against Prior Lake.
Exactly.
Or, like, he's got to be good if he scored 4 goals. Against Prior
Exactly.
Lake. So I think that's every state though. I mean,
Yes, it's funny you say that. I talk about a young man, and I love talking about this kid. He's now a star at Rutgers. He just had 9 points against St. John's. in Division I lacrosse. And when he was in high school, he was on his high school team, which just ironically won the state championship in New York. But when he was on it, it was 500. They weren't one of the better teams. But he had 50 goals and 50 assists on like an 8-8 team. He was the man.
Yeah.
So he's being double teamed, triple teamed, but he still had 50 goals.
And they're playing in the hardest conference.
And they're playing in the hardest
on
conference,
Long Island.
arguably, in the country. And
Yeah.
this kid went 50 and 50. And when people didn't know who he was, I'm like, how do you not know who this kid is? He's that good. And his name is Kieran Mullins. You should watch him play. He's a Rutgers kid. He's
Okay.
number 4. Okay? And last weekend, I always check his stats because when I followed him in high school, I'm like, this kid's unbelievable. And just because he played at that high school, nobody followed him because he wasn't from the big high school. Kind of like,
Yeah.
but this kid's, he's killing it in Division I lacrosse. So it's just funny how I think you have to have that eye. I always say that. It's like Belichick,
Yeah.
He's got guys and everybody goes, well, when he was on that team, he wasn't as good. And it's also systems. If you have
It
good
is.
systems. You know what I mean? Playing
helps.
certain systems.
So one argument I hear all the time when you talk about East versus West Coast lacrosse is, hey, maybe they're just as athletic or more athletic, in some of the West Coast teams or in the West Coast clubs, or maybe they're a little bit faster, maybe they're a little bit stronger, but their lacrosse IQ is not as good. They're definitely not getting as coached up as the kids on the East Coast, and they're not playing against as good competition. Like, why would I recruit that kid over a kid from the East Coast? Are you starting to see that change a little bit because of the people that are now mentoring and coaching kids starting at a young age?
Yeah, I mean, there is a shift, but even argue that point too if you think about it. Think of a kid that got coached up for years on the East Coast. He might have hit his ceiling versus a kid that played other sports that is a really good athlete that hasn't been coached up yet. If I'm a Division I coach and I look at him, like, he's raw, but if he was at practice 5-6 days a week with us, like, he can turn into an absolute monster later on. But no, is the West Coast, I would say the West Coast, even like Florida, California, Texas. I was just in California. Yeah, that's a hotbed. That's like a traditional hotbed now. I watched, we went to Legends National Cup, so a lot of the best California kids were there. I mean, I don't think I've been around a situation of that much talent. Like, and that I'm talking, I've been to Baltimore, I've been to Long Island. For that one tournament, for that situation, I watched some of these, rising senior teams play, and I was like, this is some of the best high school lacrosse I've ever seen. So it's coming, and if it's not, it's already here.
That's why the club lacrosse circuit is so good. People on the East Coast, because they're just not educated, they don't know how good the lacrosse is. Like, if you go watch Chapman against UC Santa Barbara in a club game, that's like watching, Rutgers St. John's. I'm not arguing. I mean, it's the same thing. They're just California kids or West Coast kids.
Yeah.
But they just don't, those kids grow up and 80% of them don't aspire to come East. They want to stay, just like your guys want to stay Midwest.
Yeah, same with Texas too.
Yeah, what kid doesn't, most kids want to be like at least somewhat close to home. It doesn't matter where you grow up.
That's true.
You grow up in Canada, it's like you don't really want to go to home, like go to a school that's 600 miles from your house. It's like you want to be able to scoot home and get a home cooked meal and like regroup and reset the batteries and maybe like not go out one night. Like every kid wants that, but there aren't as many opportunities right now, unfortunately, in the Midwest at the Division I level. I mean, I'm sure there's more and more popping up at the 2 and 3 level, but it's the same thing in California. It's like your only really options are MCLA or potentially,
That's right.
Just
it's a good
playing
point.
pickup.
It's kind of
And I
like
think that's
he
the
played with a
issue.
kid from San Diego. I think he was a Torrey Pines kid. What was?
I live by Torrey Pines.
Yeah, Reed
not
Tudor.
so
Was it
nice.
Reed Tudor?
Yeah, Reed.
Was
Yep.
he a Torrey Pines kid?
I think so. Yeah.
He was. I know, and he played at Penn, right? His brother, who I watched his brother play, was younger. So when he was going through the recruiting process, I was doing FLG, and I'm watching this kid. The kid could play. He ended up going to Cal.
Yeah.
Because he's an engineer, he's a real bright kid, and play club. But that was more normal to him. He's like, all right, how about the kid Worstel? Pete Worstel, I don't know if you know that name.
No.
So the Worstel name is famous, like he's probably 10 years older than me. They were all Americans at Maryland in the 70s, and the brothers were from Garden City. Okay, you've heard of that, right?
Yeah.
He moves to California, he's in I think he worked for a big sportswear firm. And he's the father of lacrosse in California. He was the one who started the best of the best or whatever that.
Oh, yeah.
He started that, okay?
Okay.
His son was committed to go to Syracuse to play lacrosse. In his senior year, he has a great football year at St. Ignatius, which is a great San Francisco school. He becomes the captain of the special teams at Cal. Played football at Cal for 5 years. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's like, this kid's a freak athlete.
Yeah.
I mean, a wide receiver, special teamer in the Pac-12? I'll take that kid
It's
on my
hard to
lacrosse
argue.
team every day of the
Yeah.
week.
No, definitely.
And you're closer to home.
Exactly.
I mean, you look at
Dad
MCLA
can
and
see you.
Minnesota too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's powerhouse. I mean,
Are they really good?
Oh yeah, yeah. Duluth, U of M. I mean, St. Thomas, St. John's, NDSU. NDSU is really good. North Dakota State.
Oh, yeah? In Lax?
Yeah, they're good. They're sneaky. Yeah, just like their football program.
So
right?
that's close to Minnesota?
very yeah.
Okay. They have a really good football program.
They have a really
Isn't
good
that where
football
Wentz
program.
went?
Yeah.
Carson Wentz?
That's where Carson Wentz went. But yeah, MCLA teams in Minnesota, they're good. It's because Minnesota kids want to go to Minnesota schools. I mean, Minnesota's known for good education. I mean, all those colleges are great education. So once again, it's hard to argue against those. And then you have the D3s popping up all over the Midwest. Obviously, I was a D3 guy, and I love D3 lacrosse, so I try to follow those guys. But the D3 Midwest talent
played
is
Carthage?
crazy.
Where'd you play?
Trine University
Trine.
and Carthage. I did both. I transferred.
So Trine was where? Illinois?
Northeast Indiana.
Okay. And Carthage is where?
Kenosha, Wisconsin. South Milwaukee.
Is it because you pivoted majors? You went from engineering to something else?
No.
Why'd you transfer?
Well, I think it was multiple factors, but we had 3 coaching staffs in 3 years. We had 30. My incoming class was 35, and there was 5 that graduated. So it was just kind of we were resetting each year.
Yeah.
So, and tell you the truth, when I went through the recruiting process, Trine was the closest school to me in Minnesota. That was NCAA lacrosse. So that was part of the decision too. Was 9.5 hour drive as a Midwestern. I can do that.
9.5
I'm not kidding.
hours.
That's to me, that was oh, that's close to home. Because my other options were East Coast or
9.5 hours
Indiana.
We can't get families to go on college road tours literally 12 miles from their own home.
We had one of our parents drive to Colorado overnight to come to the tournament for one day.
Wow.
They drove overnight
That's awesome.
to get to the Sunday games to play. Yeah, we have some pretty awesome
I
families.
like that.
I want to know,
It's
who,
super cool.
in your opinion, who's the PJ Fleck of college lacrosse?
PJ Fleck of
Yeah.
college lacrosse.
Give me a guy. Give me some guys. Who are some guys that are just?
Is Minnesota happy with PJ?
Yeah, what's
For
going
those
on
that
there?
don't know,
First and
PJ
foremost,
Fleck
yeah, what's
is
the-
the football coach for the University of Minnesota.
The only thing I know is just from what I see on the media, and I'm like, wow, what is happening in Minnesota right now? This looks-
I like PJ. I love
We do
it.
too.
You can't ask for a better coach for what to go for. We're not from the southeast. We're not going to get the big name coaches.
No, you're getting
but
the 3 stars, not the 5 stars.
Exactly. And so, he was an up and coming coach out of Western Michigan, I think it was. And he's the perfect coach you can get for a place like the Gophers.
Yeah, they won the bowl game this year, I think.
Did they? I don't even know.
I watched them.
I remember they made it. I mean, they had. I'll say that in 2 years, that's when we'll see real his
They
recruiting
beat
classes.
Wisconsin, by the way,
They
which is the
did.
biggest thing for them.
They're gonna
We're
be
beating
fine.
Wisconsin in all sports right now.
That
It's
guy's-
amazing.
That guy's
Well,
a winner.
Patino's kid is a good hoop coach, too.
Yeah.
Patino's kid
he's
is a
another
coach
good
at
coach.
University of Minnesota.
Oh,
Hoops.
really?
He's
Who's
a
the
very
hockey
good coach.
coach
Minnesota's
now?
got going on.
Who's the hockey coach now?
I don't know who the new coach is.
So you remember, the Magic on Ice, Herb Brooks,
Yeah.
Minnesota.
Yeah. Yeah,
There's
Herb
a
Brooks is a
statue of
legend.
him out there.
Herb
Like-
Brooks is a legend.
We want to push Everly to Minnesota because we can go visit.
Yeah,
It's
cool
so
town.
cool to just have a kid go there. So you can just go hang
I'm
out.
kind
It's
of
a good town.
pushing.
You just
I'm
come
pushing
hang
my
out. It's an
granddaughter
awesome
to
town.
Stanford,
Come.
but he's pushing.
Stanford?
Yeah, I love Palo Alto. I would
It's
buy
too,
a
it's
condo.
too good out there. I feel like it's too much goodness.
Too much goodness.
Yeah,
Come get tough in the weather.
Yeah.
You know?
I think we're doing
Negative
okay right
60
here.
yeah.
You guys are feeling it right now, huh?
I'm feeling at home out in Long Island. I came here for the weather.
I hope
so-
all you Minnesota families are checking the little radar and seeing what you're dealing with right now.
straight ice. You can't even walk outside.
Another shout out from the running family.
Oh yeah.
They said they love you. We love you too, Corey.
The running
love you.
family is
There's
it
a lot of
spelled
love in here.
RUNNING?
Yeah.
Yep. Dave,
great name.
Dave and Karen say what's up.
Do they
appreciate-
never walk?
They're constantly one speed.
Well, that would explain their son, Josh. He plays he's like a Swiss Army knife.
Really?
He plays every position you want.
Those are the kids.
Yeah.
you
That's the LSM. He's an LSM then.
He is he has played LSM, but he's just a two-way midi, like an actual true two-way.
What's the boy's name?
Josh.
Josh Running. Watch Penn State lacrosse when everybody gets the Big Ten Network, right? So once hoops
make
is
it happen.
over,
Yeah.
once
Yeah.
hoops is over, the Big Ten Network just shows lax.
Yep.
Watch Tommy Wright from Penn State.
Shout out Tommy Wright. He's
Tommy
the
Wright.
best.
I should probably take a note of that too.
Yeah, Tommy
Yeah.
Wright's the LSM and he's a stud. Penn State's the team this year.
There.
See what they did to Robert Morris?
Yeah, that's what I was like.
I think it's too soon to tell. I think people get very.
Didn't Robert Morris beat them
jumped to
last year?
Dude, they
conclusions.
smacked Nova. Nova could play.
I don't know. but-
Robert Morris won their conference last year.
And they only lost 5 seniors, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had 3. They were up 18-3 in the first half.
Still
I
early.
saw that
Jeff
score. That
D'Ambroni's
was
taking
nuts.
the handcuffs off the boys.
Wait till you see Duke,
Stop it.
come May.
Stop being on the
Everyone
Duke
gets so
bandwagon like
excited.
everybody.
I've
Enough.
been there. I beat them first game of the season
I
after they
know.
won national championship. Everyone's like,
Held them to
"Oh,
3
we're
goals.
the greatest team in the world." It's like they're in the Final Four all of a sudden, like 2 months later. It's like, how does that happen? It's like they're literally just throwing guys out there, figuring it out right now.
Yeah,
Like,
they do peak at the right time.
it's-
Danowski
it's-
does.
It doesn't
know
mean
how to do
anything.
that.
But High
Yeah.
Point, I love it. I mean, it's great for the game. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to take anything from High Point, but like, let's not discredit Duke and let's not.
I'm not
I like
discrediting
to
Duke.
see Seo. It was cool to see Seo out there.
Yeah, he scored a nice goal
So
lefty.
you see that special on his dad?
No.
Yeah, so Junior Seau, they did a piece on him. Really interesting. Just the whole situation of what happened with him and his head injuries and how it affected just everything around
Mm-hmm.
him. It really was beyond the game of football, but the cause of it was because of the game of football. And it talked a lot about his dad putting a lot of pressure on him and pushing him, and in a way it pushed him to become the man that he was, which is one of
Yeah.
the most successful NFL players ever, but also pushed him to the point where the game was more important than life itself. So he would just play through injuries that he probably shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And it talked about that a lot, so it was pretty crazy. But anyway,
His culture too.
yeah, it was part of the culture. But anyway, they talked about his kids a little bit, and his son, he took the route of lacrosse. He's now
Yeah.
at Duke, and he's playing, and it's just cool to see him
cool.
out
I'm
there.
glad
I
he's
don't know,
playing.
Like that type of athlete, just to be involved in the sport is just eye-opening for me to see. I'm glad
It's
I
like
don't
getting
have
that
to
AAA
play.
eighth grader.
Yeah, get the kid from Minnesota that's playing hockey instead of play lacrosse.
Right, convince them that lacrosse is the right way to go, the right path. But yeah, that's super cool, especially seeing him on the cover of Inside Lacrosse.
Yeah.
Thought that was super neat.
Yeah.
So definitely helped with Western exposure to the game probably too. If you think about it now, where it's at, where it was then.
Right.
I mean, that really probably brought a lot of attention to the area.
What's the officiating like in Minnesota?
So one of the biggest things, so there's not a lot of people that played the game that are older, right? So a lot of the officials, we have good officiating. I'm one of the last guys that you're probably going to hear that's screaming at the official.
Yeah.
I try to be the guy that okay, we're all in this together type of deal. But I do think that to get more consistent officiating, because when we go to the East Coast, our kids are always like, oh, they let you play.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, this is what it's like. So when you go to
Right.
college, this is the level and the tempo of what's played at.
Yep.
So I know I brought up in past with just my wife Laura too. It's like we should find a way to bring East Coast officials to the Midwest, just to talk about yes, you can read the book, but you can't necessarily follow it word for word.
Right.
You have to understand the flow of lacrosse, the flow of the game, what really is changing a play during game, and what you should maybe let go.
Well, a lot of the officials that officiate at the highest level on the East Coast were players.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. We just met with a young man. His dad was the guy who held every record at Maryland until Joe Walters broke it. 7 years ago? Is Joe Walters your age?
He's a little bit older.
So 8 years ago?
Yeah.
So this guy held records for 40 years. He's an official. This guy
Nice.
this guy had 300 points at Maryland and became a college high school official. So,
Yeah.
you're talking about a guy who lets it go, so to speak, or understands the game,
Yeah.
or the flow of the game,
Yep.
or when not to call a moving pick, that might move a little bit. You know the deal.
Yeah. It's like so lacrosse now. If you fall down, it's probably a penalty.
Right.
So if someone knocks you down, it's flags are going in the air. And we have some kids at Frog on defense who are just absolute animals, and they get 3-4 penalties a game. And at the same time, as a coach, it's hard to coach that because you don't want to take that out of them.
Right.
And so we're constantly you know what? Yes, it was a penalty, but we're okay with those penalties.
We'll work on man down right now.
We're going to get better at man down, and if that guy catches on the crease and he's not on his butt,
Right.
I'd be more mad about that.
Exactly.
You can't let him score easy goals in our crease. So, it's definitely a learning curve, just like everything else in lacrosse.
I feel like you got to do that virtually somehow, because to get
Yeah.
East Coast officials out to the West, it seems costly. And
Something sound up on their laptop,
you want me to turn it down?
turn it off.
Oh, sorry.
Sound has to be off,
Okay,
leading into the microphone.
sorry about that.
So,
Cliff's mad at me.
Corey's getting yelled at by Clay.
Corey,
It-
you're fired.
It wouldn't
You
be
can yell two of us at once.
scolding two
Oh.
Corys. But yeah, so I don't know, I just think with the technology that's out there, potentially watching a game on the East Coast with officials that I guess have the right flow for the game and understanding for how we want the game to be played. How can you create a system or curriculum where you can educate referees all over the place. So it's a little more universal when people go.
Yeah, because you have the certification of it, but it's
Yeah.
almost someone just being a mentor. It's just like,
Yeah.
if someone goes online, it's like, hey, go on our webinar, we're going to walk through a lacrosse game. Here's why I didn't call that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Here's why I did call this.
Totally.
So I think that's where it is. It's not just so much here's the certification process. It's,
Yeah.
hey, I'm an official from the East Coast. I blah, blah, blah. Here's my background. Jump on a webinar with me, and I'll go over the flow of the game and why we do the things we do.
The frustration,
So-
if you really watch the change in the girls' game. Forget the boys' game, because
Yeah.
the girls' game, you watch a college girls' game, and then you go watch a high school girls' game. Forget that slightly rules are different. Oh my God, it's almost like you're watching a different sport.
It's tough to watch.
That's
too.
what I've heard.
It's like they're pulling the reins on like amazing athletes when they really shouldn't have to.
Exactly.
Especially when we watch Long Island high school lacrosse, like the amount of talent on Long Island in the girls' game is like ridiculous. Like the amount of good players that are going off to play in college is absurd. And sometimes you go to these games and it's just like officials just seem like they can't help but get in the way and like stop.
They're kind of the
something great from
center of
happening.
it. 'Cause I was just
Yeah.
watching my daughter play just at the 8U level, and it's just a whistle every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's at the point of just let
Yeah.
them flow,
Yeah,
let them get in a
just-
rhythm. Versus
And there's
just
no
always
checking
something.
at that
It's
age.
kind of like in
No.
So, like, what are you calling?
Yeah.
Well, it's always a hot debate. I'm on a board for Minnesota schoolgirls, and we talk about it all the time of when do you introduce checking, how do you introduce it, because these girls the boys' game is the same. Like, you start at 8U or whenever, and it's the same. So you're able to perfect your game, but the girls' game has different rules at every level. So
Yeah.
8U, it's this. 10U, it's this. And so the girls
Yeah.
are always having to learn and adapt, and it's still not the same when they get to college.
Well,
Mhm.
Maryland
Mhm.
plays checking,
Yeah.
and New York or Long Island does not. So when we go play them, it's like we're playing a different sport.
It is.
Our kids
I didn't
aren't.
know that. That's crazy.
Our kids aren't used to checking at the young ages.
Yeah, it's
So it's like it ends up it's like you're trying to explain it. It's okay. But I personally think they should play checking because it teaches the girls not to protect their stick. So they're putting the stick like this, and it's like, well, that's bad habits.
Yeah.
You're teaching bad habits.
Well, and
So I like the Maryland way personally.
Yeah, and it helps them perfect like their defense and just, when you take a Minnesota team out to the East Coast, it takes like a game for them to realize how to protect their stick because, the East Coast girls are just so proficient at checking and they kind of have it down that
Mhm.
it kind of is like a culture shock at first.
Yep.
It's ironic that it's a different
It's like
sport.
someone from the Coyotes is
Yeah.
challenging the Frog lacrosse program. Eric
Oh, yeah?
Johnson.
Eric Johnson, I knew
Yeah.
Eric Johnson would pop in.
He said he's the Coyotes are coming for the Frogs this summer.
Oh yeah.
Is that your buddy?
What are the Coyotes?
Yeah, his son plays in our program. So the Coyotes, so that's a program that, so like this could be long-winded, but basically we started a company called Arete Sport. And by the way, it's not a REIT, it's Arete.
Spell it.
Arete.
Okay.
So it's Greek.
You have a website?
Yeah, arete-sport.com. So it's Arete, not a REIT. And the reason we chose that name is because it stands for excellence in everything you do. So like that's like it's like be ethical, be excellent, and so we thought that was a good name for something that's about teaching people how to run a club team or us managing club teams. So we started that company, and Coyote Lacrosse is one of the programs that we took over out of Madison. So we started in August with them. It's been phenomenal. The talent in Madison, like I talked about earlier, it's ridiculous. Like these kids have it's just like
Where is Madison relative to where you are?
so about 4 hours, all right, to the
east.
the east. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So it's not too bad.
Is that the-
Once again, Midwestern terms, we can get there in a minute.
So would you
So,
drive or fly?
drive? We wouldn't even think about
We would
flying.
take a chopper, right? Our chopper.
Yeah, we would take the Cliff Sobel chopper with his picture
The
on
stream-
it.
Dreamcast
FL
Network.
FLG helicopter.
Yeah, the BYG helicopter.
So Coyote, Frog. Is there any other programs you're affiliated with?
Yeah, there's 2 more. So right now, currently, we're talking to some other clubs about helping them with their management side, their administrative side. But Western made with Paul Hummer out in Colorado. We just kind of started working with him. Paul Hummer is also helping me on our national team. So we have a national program called Unreal Lacrosse. So Unreal is a clothing brand out of Minnesota. They also make lacrosse uniforms. So they're our lead sponsor on our national team. And so that's another team we manage, and we actually have tryouts this weekend for 21s and 22s.
Cool.
Oh, cool.
How many kids are you going to take
22.
on each
where
age
does
level?
where
So
do they
each age
try
group.
out? Where is this tryout?
So we're doing it in February in Minnesota,
And inside.
inside.
How many
Not
kids?
outside.
How many kids are coming to try out?
About 50.
Cool.
So, and it's invite only, so we're looking for the top non-traditional area kids. So
you flying kids
non-conventional
in?
area
Kids are flying in for
Kids
this?
are flying. We have actually
What-
kids
what do
flying
you
from
con-
Massachusetts and Maryland
So-
to try out in Minnesota. So think about that. There's kids from Maryland flying to Minnesota to try out for a national team.
Now, so I don't consider Maryland non-traditional. So how can they qualify? Is it because of where they're from in Maryland? Like, are they from some random town?
They aren't from. I don't think they actually live in Maryland. I think they
Gotcha.
live. I don't know
Maybe
exact
like
address.
Northern Virginia.
But
or-
that was a relationship that we've already had. Not
Yeah.
me, but Paul Hummer coached him went up with the Colorado program. He flew out and played with him out in Vegas, and he's a really good player, and he wants to be involved with what we're doing.
Gotcha.
So, yes, it's not exactly the non-traditional area, but it's super cool to see players from traditional areas want to play with us, especially as we start out, because we're new. This is our first
One team?
time
Yeah.
ever doing this. So one team at 21, 22, and 23.
And where are they going to go this summer? Where can we see the Unreal
The Unreal
national
national team. So we'll be at Crab Feast.
Crab Fest, okay.
We'll be at Inside Lacrosse Invitational,
Okay.
the June session, and then we'll be at the NLF main event with our 23s.
The NLF will be which event?
The main event, I think NLF main event, early June. So our 23s will be playing in that.
Cool.
So we're
We'll have
super
to check
excited.
them out.
Oh, it'll be
Unreal.
fun. Unreal.
I like the name.
Yeah, so we're trying to really, I mean, first year was our first time doing it. Teams are going to be great, but once again, long term, what we're really trying to do is show, give more exposure to kids that aren't from, the East Coast. Try and build them out, especially the Midwest. Like the Midwest, it's kind of crickets. It's like we want to start celebrating the best kids of the Midwest, and then Winnipeg, it's just straight above us in Canada.
Oh, you getting some of those guys?
Yeah, yep. We have guys coming down from Winnipeg to try out.
I didn't realize Winnipeg was so close.
It's really close. Yep, I think I could be mistaken. I think it's a 5.5 to 6 hour drive.
It's really
I know
close.
it's.
It's all relative,
You're
right?
gonna-
5.5, 6 hours, it's close.
Oh, Colorado, it's 12 hours.
There's no traffic there.
No one's driving, on those
5.5
roads.
hours of a few hundred miles.
It's a straight shoot.
We're like 5.5 hours of 45 miles.
It's so true. So, well, he knows.
Exactly.
He just came out. Well, I took a train, but
Took a train, yeah. I'm not driving out here.
It's the only way to go.
But no, we're really excited about it and the growth of what it is. Our 23 group has a lot of interest. That'll be fun. We got kids coming from Texas, Utah, Idaho, Colorado. I mean, we're getting kids from all over the place. and it's
Idaho
super cool.
lacrosse. I love it.
Yeah, Idaho.
Love that.
Idaho. Yeah, it's
That gets me pumped up. I mean,
Yeah.
I love the growth of the game. That's one of the things that's most important to us. That's why we're involved with Hall and Lacrosse, because we want to give everybody an opportunity to play the game that the three of us love.
Yep.
And I should say the four of us. Sorry. Didn't want to
Cliff
leave you
loves
out.
it too. 5.
Cliff, do you love
Yeah.
lacrosse now?
In love.
I don't blame you.
He was falling in love, and now he is in love.
Show me the money.
So it's funny.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
The irony is that the recruiting service that we're doing now to help kids get recruited, it's ironic that nobody is really spending the time to build the relationships. Like, to me, that we talked about this today, and obviously we're going to get very involved with helping you. It's so important that you build a relationship with all these different types of colleges, because you're going to have a boy or girl that's going to fit one of those schools.
Yeah.
And that relationship
Yeah.
is so key.
And then on the flip side, like you talked about earlier, it's like, who's in your club, right? Who are you helping? Get to know their interests, what they want, right? Who they are as people, and then you can match those kids and those schools up. And I think if you kind of lack in one of those two areas, it's gonna be very hard to find that perfect fit if that's what your kids are aspiring, right? I assume a lot of the
Exactly.
kids in your program, right? They want to play at the college level. Would you say?
Oh, yeah,
The high school
definitely.
kids? Yep.
Oh, for sure.
So, yeah, I guess let's since we're coming to a close here, where else can we just learn about all the great things that you guys are doing, whether it be on social media or on a website or wherever?
Yeah, so I mean, with all the hats, so we have Frog Lacrosse. So we're on Instagram as Frog Lacrosse. Coyote Lacrosse, I believe we're on there. You'll have to put in the show notes the actual names, but
Sure.
I mean, if you Google search Coyote Lacrosse, Western Made Lacrosse, which is new in Colorado Springs, which we're really excited about. And then Arete Sport, arete-sport.com is going to be like our umbrella of these club managements that we're working with and networking with. So Arete Sport's probably the place you can go and kind of find information about everything we're doing and who we're working with everything that we're about to offer this coming year for lacrosse.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you flying in just for the show. That's why you came, right?
Of course, of course.
You ain't
Just
gonna
for
go
you.
We're gonna send you back on our FLG private jet now, and you
Yeah.
go back home.
I appreciate it. No,
You're-
sounds
yeah,
good.
We try
It'll
to treat
be
you well.
LIRR.
LIRR. That's
You know what that stands for?
The name
Long
Long
Island
Island.
Railroad.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Love
what we're going to be doing next week, which is kind of cool, just so you can tell your followers in Minnesota, is Coach Wink and Coach Cory and Cliff Sobel and Frank are going to be on our college road tour. And we're, Frank J. Parisi. We're going to be taking our show to Dickinson College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
So let me ask you something real quick, Cor, before we break. So maybe some families in your program, being from where you are, you as a club director and owner, what would you like to see us show you on our college road tour? Like if you're just tuning into our Instagram, you're following our videos, what would be like positive educational content that we could post that you would want to be like, wow, it would be really cool if I saw this?
Man, you put me on the spot with that. So if you're talking from a Dickinson standpoint of D3,
Think about any school we go. So we're going to go see 6 schools. We're going to meet with boys programs, girls programs. We're going to go campus tours. We're going to see games. We're going to see practices. Like, what do you want to see that we can capture and share with our audience that you could be like, oh, this is helpful?
from people from the Midwest,
Yeah.
like show how good those kids are at lacrosse.
Yeah.
I think that's number one thing too. Is sometimes D3 gets like a almost like, oh, it's just D3. I'm like, no, go watch D3.
Yeah.
So if it's a D3 campus, even D1 or D2, girls and boys, is just showing clips of them practicing,
Mm-hmm.
and then because I just tweeted out a couple weeks ago of a clip of a D3's team just doing a drill. I'm like, this is D3 lacrosse. These kids all have 2 hands. These guys are they're all great shooters.
Yeah.
So if you want to play D1, just think of what you have to do to get there to be a Division I lacrosse player. So and then interviewing the coaches, I think it's good for parents to see the coaches and their personality types. And then the campuses, because when I came here to New York, just in the city too, it's like, this is way different than I expected it to be. So showing the facilities, showing the small campuses versus the big campuses. And so cause most kids don't envision a Division III campus.
Sure.
So once again, I'm coming from the standpoint of D3, but
Yeah.
I think that'd be good for people to know.
Cool. I appreciate that because we are seeing 5 of the 6 schools are D3, right?
1 D2.
1 D2.
Yeah, and D2 is the same thing. We'll always
Yeah.
can throw in D2 and D3 kind of
Stepchild.
together. Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah, we're very excited because we're going to meet with some great coaches. We're going East Stroudsburg, meeting Zenny, who's built a monster there in girls' side. They don't have a boys team. Then we're going to Bucknell, boys and girls. Then we're going to Dickinson, boys and girls. Then we're going to York, boys and girls. And Brandon Childs, look what he's done.
Well, we share last names. We're both good coaches.
Dude.
So,
Dude,
and it's
it
amazing.
must be
I
the
follow
name.
him closely. It is the name. Of course it is.
He has built. I want to suck every bit of knowledge out of that.
If anyone
guy.
asks if we're related, just say
I'll
it.
just say it is.
You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
Your secondary source. So yeah, I think they're
Then we're doing a day in the life of a Franklin and Marshall player.
nice.
We're going to their game,
We're topping
boys
it
and
off with
girls.
their game at night.
I've heard a lot of good things about Franklin and
Oh,
Marshall. I've never been there.
It's supposed to be beautiful. I've never been there either. And then the last one is Muhlenberg, where
Muhlenberg.
we have a young man who's a freshman there who is playing first midfield man up as a freshman, which we're pretty pumped for him. So we're excited. And Cliff's going to get to experience to be a lacrosse player in college, which he never has.
We just got 2 comments I just want to touch on. The Vetch family.
Yep,
She said, "Love you guys. Been with you since day one. You
They
gotta
have.
gotta respect that.
they have.
the
No,
loyal,
they've been
loyal
amazing
customers.
for sure.
So
There's a
Britta,
lot of them.
we respect it. Yeah, just you and everyone else. And then Paula Carroll made a great point on March 1st, which is less than 2 weeks. Our magazine's dropping at midnight. So just so you know, you can pre-order that on our Instagram page if you click the link in our bio. So
And
that
we showed a little to the
we showed
child
a little.
yeah.
What do you
couple.
guys think? Pretty cool, right?
No, it's amazing. It's
Yeah.
exciting. I
So-
can't wait.
They'll be tuning in. We're gonna hook up the Childses with a little link. We have over 2,000 athletes being featured from Long Island in our magazine.
That's going to be really cool.
So, a lot
That's
of kids.
awesome.
The little launch, March 1st. That's
Yep.
it's 2 weeks from this Friday.
Yeah, 2 weeks. So click on
Crazy.
that. Don't forget.
Crazy.
Cool. Thanks again, man, for coming in. We appreciate it.
Always.
It was awesome,
sure.
buddy. It really
Yeah.
was awesome. Thank you.
No problem at all.
Thanks, Mama Childs.
Organized sports can be overwhelming, and the recruiting process beyond. We untangle it all with our common sense approach. Learn from our experience, then go on and create your own. FLG Lacrosse has created a recruiting service with one goal in mind: create more opportunities for your lacrosse recruit. We've created a step-by-step process that's been tested and proven by hundreds of student athletes, both boys and girls. Our process includes a month-to-month as well as a year-to-year calendar, an online recruiting platform to keep everything organized, access to every single college coach in the country, both men's and women's, educational live streams just for you, where you can answer questions and talk about your concerns with us, as well as consulting on what events to go to and which events to stay away from. And we also give you access to our alumni network of over 100 men and women who have gone through the recruiting process. They're now in college and some have even graduated. We are now accepting applications for the BYG recruiting service. Our application window is going to end on February 1st, 2019. So be sure to apply today at byglacrosse.com.